So Ty Segall with Three Bells, my selection. And yeah, I think we again on the WhatsApp kind of pinpointed where my love of Ty Segall's music has come from and essentially pinpointed it to the period between 2014 and 2018 which began with Manipulator and ended with Freedom's Goblin, which was a very good stretch of albums and included a self-titled effort as well with some of the rockier cuts from his discography like Break a Guitar. So that's really put me on to him, and again via the End of the Road Festival, which was the first one I went to, which is where I saw America Hackman in 2017. So he headlined the Garden stage on, I think it was the Saturday or the Friday, and again I missed someone fairly big on the main stage, not as big as Father John Misty, and yeah, just loved, and then saw in London as well, hoping to see him later this year as well, if I can get that pass. So yeah, since 2018, what's been happening with Ty Segall and his musical output? Well, he remains prolific. You know, he said at the top, 15th studio album. On top of that, he's been involved in a number of musical projects, including Fuzz, and some others, which he's are in his own name, but with other artists as well. And there's always something I enjoy about every subsequent release there's been, but a solid album from beginning to end has been lacking, I would say. And I think he's coming to that point in his career where he probably needed to pull something out of the bag with Three Bells, particularly as this is over the hour mark, which tends to be daunting, particularly for us trying to cram all this listening in for the pod. And I was excited. Void, I think, is a really great single. I love how it's got that psych element, and it's just really unnerving. And then it sort of builds and comes into this kind of great riff and kind of dreamy bit towards the end, which is quite sparse and yeah, sparse lyrics basically, which again is a feature of this album, which is, I think, a lot of it's to do with loneliness. And maybe this is post-COVID Ty now, basically. But essentially, and I'll probably give the most complimentary is my inclination and based on our conversations. But the first half I did pretty much enjoy once I really got on board with it. The Bell, I think, is good kick off with Queens of the Stone Age like guitar. I hear you got the kind of Eastern strings at the start. Again, more disturbing lyrics and some jarring guitar distortion. High DD is a kind of typical kind of Ty Segall creation, which is kind of catchy classic rock chorus. And then that moves on to My Best Friend, one of the other singles about his dog, because he's already done one about his other dog, Fanny. So, and yeah, that is probably the simplest and most joyful song on the album. And yeah, breezy lyrics and one which I think he's one of these who maybe overcomplicates what he does, because he's got a lot of talent, but when he just plays it straight, that's sometimes some of his best output. So Reflections and Move, both of those I liked as well. Then we hit Eggman, which as a single didn't quite resonate with me. Even the video with him eating a million eggs, which he's teamed up a lot with his wife Danae, which is something which maybe we can discuss as well. And that's one of the tracks on the album is Danae, his wife's name. And so she does the videos for him, and she's involved. She does singing as well on some tracks in the past and on one of the tracks on Three Bells. And from this point on, it just goes downhill, really. I mean, My Room is the last kind of high point on the album for me. Talking about the seduction of hiding away from the world, which I think anyone can relate to. But then it just really peters out, it meanders, and I think Danae I just referred to, I think that is the low point, really. It's just the lyrics are Danae repeated. it's constructed like a jazz song where you've got the beginning part with the Dene refrain, then it just moves off here, there, and everywhere, and then returns to the callback at the beginning, which is kind of fine, but just leaves me shrugging my shoulders. And ultimately, I just ended up with this album feeling disappointed and frustrated as a fan of his. That the fact he's kind of gone fully into this with such a long album, which he can be prone to do with Manipulator, Freedom's Goblin as well. But those ones, there was lots of variety, and definitely the high points out of his album output. And here, you just wouldn't put it up against those. And yeah, he definitely could have done with just making that first half maybe the bulk of what this album was. So yeah, I was very excited, but the excitement was not justified. And with that, I'll hand over to Kiley.
I was pretty excited when you picked this one, Andrew, because I think my Thai fandom was a little bit before that, but I do agree that that Manipulator through Freedom's Goblin is, I think for me, the streak where I was really feeling what he was doing. And then I liked Joy all right as well, but like yeah, the last couple of releases, I really wanted to like Harmonizer in 2021, did a little more of a synth thing, and I was excited to hear that, and it still just didn't land with me. And so, Three Bells, like, okay, let's do this again. Come on, land this one. And yeah, I mean, the end note that you touched on, but it's an hour and 5 minutes and it's 15 songs. And I think an editor would have gone a long way into, getting this down to maybe 10 songs. But I'm not sure I'd even enjoy it then. I think he's just, I can't deny he's got a signature guitar tone. He's, does these incredible fretboard runs and stuff. I cannot deny his talent, his technical talent. But this album, the Bell I really enjoyed, the Void I did as well. I was into it, and then it just kind of feels like the same ideas repeat for the next 45 minutes. I want to love my best friend, but that's really where things kind of just I lose my interest. And I've listened to this thing a few times, and My Room is something that I agree with you as well. I also liked Watcher, that kind of 1-2 combo there. I felt like things were coming back around, especially after Eggman is just not my kind of single. And it fades out, and it's background noise that I'm never really in the mood for listening to. So, I think I'm continuing on the same path that I appreciate Ty. I appreciate, the garage rock scene that he continues to carry the mantle. I don't know if you guys knew Jay Retard. He was kind of one of the early guys in this scene, and I saw him live a few times. He's fantastic and not a bad record. He unfortunately passed in 2010. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I just always find myself wanting more Jay Retard instead of Ty Segall. But yeah, I don't know. Just he seems to be stuck to me. It just sounds like what we've heard the last couple of albums, and it's a lot of the same ideas on repeat on this record. Just disappointing.
Carl, what do you make of Three Bells?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd probably start with a disadvantage to you both. Know the name Ty Segall, but never really listened to his work to any great length. that I'm aware of anyway. So yeah, this was my first proper exposure to him, and yeah, I'll be honest, it's not left me overly keen to check out much more. I'm gonna have to go listen to those records that you mentioned there. I think after this one, just to see what he sounded like in his heyday. But yeah, I really struggled with this one. I'll start with the positives. Really like the opening track. Think it's actually more Radiohead than The Smile. It wouldn't have sounded out of place in Rainbows. That kind of acoustic guitar almost reminded me of like Jigsaw Falling Into Place or something off that record. So yeah, I think that's probably the best track on there for me, is that kind of opener semi-title track. Heidi D basically said White Stripes or Jack White track to me, which is again isn't a bad thing. There's no doubt he's an impressive guitarist, and there's some great guitar work on that track. Really enjoyed that one. There was a couple that I liked in the back end as well. Wait, I quite enjoyed it in a nostalgic kind of fun throwback 90s rock track kind of way. Again, the guitar solo at the end was kind of what did it on that track for me. And fully enough, Danae, I thought, considering what came before, I found that quite interesting. It was, at least, as you say, it got very samey up until that point. And I think when that song came in, it was like, okay, he's actually doing something different here. You got like the more jazz sound, the shuffling drums. So I did actually quite like that one towards the back end. But aside from those moments, there was just a lot here that I found really grating. Like that middle passage on, I know you guys both like Void, but there's that middle passage that just sounds like nails on a chalkboard for me. It sounds like he's hitting like a frying pan that's kind of like, there's sort of like a semblance of a song, but then like this weird noise going on in the background, and it's one of those that I just like get through that bit, because there's some redeeming moments towards the end of that track where obviously the guitars come in and it goes a bit more, as you say, Andrew, psychedelic. It goes a bit Beatles, kind of Revolver era. But yeah, the damage is kind of done for me at that point, just because of that section at the start. Move, I kind of mentioned to you guys, I couldn't stand. Again, just like a really horrid riff, and obviously quite empty lyrics. It's again just repeating the same kind of refrain for pretty much the whole song. And then I think I said to you guys, it was like Wet Leg teaming up with Muse, or someone fronting Jack White fronted by Wet Leg or something like that. So yeah, that one did nothing for me. Eggman, you both mentioned as well, that was like someone just coming along and poking you, like really stop start, those random guitar screeches. Again, I just found it quite just not enjoyable to listen to. And then obviously the obvious problem that you guys both mentioned as well is the length of the record. I don't mind an album being over an hour if I can see, the artistic vision and the songs on there kind of justify the length and back up to the decision for it to be that long. But this very much felt like, here's a load of stuff that I've made, go listen to it. And it kind of just, here's a load of ideas, not really connected, not all of them working. And yeah, it was just made it a bit of a struggle. So there was some good moments on there, but also for me, more bad / annoying moments. Obviously, as you guys said, very talented guitarist. Like you said, Andrew, probably overcomplicates it at times. Too much of this experimental stuff that just, I don't mind a song being experimental, but for me, it just needs to be like nice to listen to. And yeah, there's some really impressive solos, as I mentioned, at certain points as well. But yeah, and I think even with like the good moments that I enjoyed, it was like reminded me of other artists that kind of do it better, like Radiohead, Jack White, the Beatles. Like the similar sounds, just more coherent and more enjoyable. So yeah, definitely need to check out some more Ty Segall. But yeah, this one was a pass for me.